Hi, it's David Parrish with World Missions and Evangelism. And today I want to begin to talk to you on these video blogs about our strategy for advancing the Great Commission in Latin America. We call it the Instar project. And Instar, I-N-S-T-A-R, is a word in Spanish that means urgent, or it actually means to urge. In other words, to urge someone to do something, or to be urgent, to urge or to be urgent. We don't know of anything more urgent than completing the Great Commission, than making disciples. Jesus said in Matthew 28, he said, "Go and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey all things I've commanded you, and lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age." And we believe that promise, we believe that command, and we want to fulfill that. Now, World Missions and Evangelism has missionaries and projects all over the world. We have missionaries in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in Australia, and in Central and South America, as well as even campus ministry in the United States. So WME is really a worldwide missions agency with missionaries and projects all over the world. If you want to know all about all of them, go to worldmissionsevangelism.com and just check it all out. But we're primarily focused in terms of strategy on multiplying church planting movements and disciple making movements. We would call these viral movements, movements that just multiply, groups that plant groups that plant groups that plant groups, disciples that make disciples that make disciples that make disciples, leaders that train leaders that train leaders that train leaders, churches that plant churches that plant churches that plant churches, until all have heard the gospel. And we want to facilitate that. We want to be facilitators and catalysts of that kind of thing. So what is our strategy? How are we going forward intentionally? We call it the Instar strategy. And I want to begin to tell you about the Instar strategy and really what it is that we're trying to do, and why we need you to pray with us and help us both with prayer and financial support to be a part of the Instar project. Instar is really about all the world, but we're focused at this moment on Latin America. We want to see closure brought to the Great Commission in Latin America. That means from the top of Mexico to the tip of South America. And we focused for the last several years on the country of Honduras. But we're not just staying focused on Honduras. We're looking at the whole region. And already our Honduras project is already right now affecting the nations of Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Mexico, and Colombia in South America. So what started in one country in 2008 is touching 6 nations today. And it's touching people groups, and we're excited about this. We've already begun to train and to begin groups among some lesser reached people groups, or people groups where there's still need for the gospel. And so we're so excited about this, and the work is multiplying, and we give reports about this from time to time. But what is Instar? How are we as an organization? What is World Missions and Evangelism doing, and what are we intentionally doing in order to reach the whole Latin American region of Central and South America? Well, each letter of Instar stands for a principle, and I want to talk about those principles with you today. And today I'm just going to talk about the I. I, which is the first principle, stands for actually 2 words. It's the only one that actually stands for 2 words. First of all, it stands for intercession, because everything begins with prayer. And even as you watch this video, I want to ask you to be in prayer for World Missions and Evangelism, and specifically for the Instar project, which is focused on bringing the gospel to Latin America and every people group there. Please be in prayer for Instar and for the missionaries, the projects, the leaders, the disciples, the new churches that are being multiplied, because it all starts with prayer. It starts with God, because it's God's work. It's all a God thing. We cannot do this in our strength. I've told this story before, and I'll tell it again right here. I've even told it on other videos on this video blog. That years ago, when David Watson was visiting with me one time, and we were talking about the project that was going to be launching in Latin America, I made the statement out of excitement. I said, we're going to launch a church planting movement in Honduras. And he looked me in the eye and he said, no, you're not. And I said, what does that mean? What do you mean, no, we're not? We're not? Why not? And he said, because what I'm saying is, if God doesn't do it, you won't be able to. In other words, he let me know right off the beginning, and I never forgot it, that it's a God thing. And that's why it's an intercession thing. And that's why we send out prayer requests every week from our Honduras Latin America project. And we have a group of intercessors. We started calling them the 300 group. We're getting close to 300 people that we're communicating with by email, and we're asking for prayer. And your prayer is an important part, because the work has to be undergirded by prayer. And not only that, it has to be led by God. God has to open the doors. We can't open the doors on our own. God opens the doors, and God does the work, and prayer is where the work begins. That's how you and I, no matter where we live, here in the United States or wherever else in the world we live, we can be a part of the work that's going on there through being part of the prayer team. And I want to ask you to be a part of that. So I stands for intercession, but it also stands for identification. And that means we want to identify through the Lord's help, through the Holy Spirit, and through research and through intentional research. We want to identify what are the regions, what are the places, who are the people groups that need the outreach, that need a person to go and begin a discovery Bible study there in order to make disciples. What are the regions? What are the areas? And we want to understand how many unreached people groups are there still in Latin America. And I want you to know there are a lot. Not as many, certainly, as in Asia or some parts of Africa, but there are still unreached people groups. And even among those regions where the people are not classified as unreached people groups, there are still thousands and thousands of places, communities, and villages throughout Latin America that have not heard the gospel. And we want to identify those. And we identify those through research, but we identify those also through prayer and the leading of the Holy Spirit. So the first part of our strategy, the first part of the Instar strategy, is to cultivate prayer and to cultivate identification of the need. What is the need? And the need in Latin America is very great. So that's part of what WME is involved in. Intercession and cultivating intercession and building an intercessory team from around our nation and around the world that will undergird this project with prayer as we step forward to reach out and start Discovery Bible studies that will see people come to Christ and be baptized and new churches be formed. And it's already happening, but we've got to have intercession. Will you be a part of that intercessory team? You know, if you would be a part of that intercessory team and you haven't already signed up for our online weekly internet prayer request, I would like you to send me an email and ask me, David, put me as a part of the internet prayer team. I want to be able to pray. I will be praying. And we're not asking for some major commitment, but if you would just say, as God helps me, I will be a prayer warrior. I will pray. Send me these prayer requests, and I will be one that prays with you and with the others for the advance of the work. If you'd be willing to do that, send me an email. And my email address is dparish, that's DPARISH, and then the number 9 at cs.com. dparish9, that's one R in the parish, dparish9 at cs.com. Send me an email and say, David, please add me to the prayer team. And we will not bother you with anything except every week you'll get an email that has prayer requests so that you can help us undergird the work with prayer. It starts with intercession. Please be a part of that team. And thank you to all those of you that are a part of WME's prayer team. God bless you and have a great day. And next week we'll come back and I'll talk about N. What does N stand for? And what is the next step in our strategy that we're taking in seeing a disciple-making movement happen in Latin America? Thanks so much. God bless.